movies. Okay, Mad Max Fury Road. There's a bit of a story that goes along with this, so I hope you'll entertain the beginning section of this. I wanted to see a movie because last time I went to Regal, I got a free Regal movie ticket. I got one of those years ago, and I was like, this is great. And then when I finally tried to use it, it had expired. So I was like, okay, I want to use this right away. And of course, you know, all the stuff going on with the baby, it's like, anything that I want to put off now just needs to happen now. So I talked to my friend Dan, who goes see movies all the time, and I was like, hey, do you want to see Mad Max with me so I can use this ticket? And we're like, okay, but how about Thursday? And I'm like, oh, it doesn't open on Thursday. He's like, no, there's theaters that are playing it on Thursday, even though, you know, it opened on Friday. And turned out AMC had some kind of special where they could, you know, show the movie a day earlier or something like that at normal times. So we wanted to see a 7 p.m. showing at AMC, but that meant that I couldn't use my free Regal ticket, which that was fine. But we went to the movie, and then we got there, and I paid for the movie and all that, and we arrive in the theater, and we sit down, and we start watching the trailers, and right away I'm thinking, like, oh man, I hope this isn't like what happened with the Avengers 2, where there were so many action sequences in the trailers that by the time the movie started, I was already burned out on action, and just was like, oh, move on already. And so I was thinking, oh, I hope that doesn't happen again. And then something interesting happened. The polar opposite. Instead of any action, the trailers we were seeing were things like, you know, teen romance movies with sappy romance, like my parents don't understand me, and that kind of thing, and it was just that kind of genre over and over and over. The most interesting thing we saw was the trailer for the new Pixar movie, which is still a kid's movie, and I'm sitting there going like, they are tailoring this completely wrong for the audience who's here to see Mad Max. And there was all sorts of confusing things though, like, you know, there's a girl who came out on screen for a second and was like, what's up, pitches? And I was like, did she just call us bitches? No, she called us pitches. And then she's like, welcome to my new movie, hope you enjoy it. Boo. And then there was a trailer for Insidious 3, which was scary, and again, not my genre, not what I was there to see, and she wasn't even in that. And then after Insidious 3, the movie started, and you know, the logos start going, and then we start hearing doo-wop music that's like, and I'm like, okay, George Miller, I know you've done Babe, Pig in the City, and, you know, Happy Feet and that kind of thing, but this is a very bizarre way to start Mad Max Fury Road. Turns out, a cappella group on stage, not part of the movie unless they were shooting back way before the water wars and everything that caused the world that Mad Max lives in. That would have been kind of interesting, but we were watching Pitch Perfect 2, a movie franchise I know nothing about and have little to no interest in seeing. So right away, I was kind of like, whatever, I'm here to see a movie, even though I wanted to catch my train at the end of the movie. But fine, I was cool with it. People in the audience were getting so friggin' angry, because these are people here to see Mad friggin' Max Fury Road! And there's some people with like spray paint and certain kind of outfits and all that kind of thing. So they were excited to see this movie, and this was the wrong movie. So right away, like half the theater leaves and goes outside to tell the AMC concession guy or whatever exactly the same thing, like, I'm here to see Mad Max, and we just sat through 20 minutes of trailers, and this isn't the right movie. I'm sure they said it exactly like that. And so you'd think at that point, we'd cut to black, things would get sorted out, and then Mad Max would start playing. But no, wait, Pitch Perfect 2 keeps playing for a while. For like 10 minutes. At least 10 minutes, actually. And, you know, I was sitting there kind of going like, okay. Finally, an AMC guy comes in and is like, hey, everyone, we're so sorry for the mix-up. We accidentally switched projectors. And I thought, oh my god, wait. So the other theater was watching Mad Max Fury Road and all the, like, rated R trailers that were part of that movie. Those poor children, like, I legitimately felt bad for them. And he said, look, everyone in the theater is going to get a free ticket. So, oh, that's sweet. You totally didn't have to do that, but that's cool. And he's like, and here we go. Enjoy the movie. So then we switch over. We skip all the previews, go right to Mad Max. And, you know, Dan has an interesting comment, which was, you know, if all we had to do to get a free movie ticket every time we went to the theater was watch 10 minutes of Pitch Perfect 2, that's not such a bad deal. I totally agreed with that. I was thinking more about what it must have been like for, say, one guy in the back of the theater who was sitting there watching Pitch Perfect 2. He'd never seen a movie like this before. Maybe he has, like, a spray-painted mouth and a bald head or something like that, and he's got a battle axe, I don't know why, and he's sitting in the back row and he starts watching Pitch Perfect 2, and then something kind of gets triggered in his brain, and he's like, This is what I've been looking for my whole life. And so he gets his free movie ticket, and he looks at his free movie ticket and goes, I'm going to use this to see Pitch Perfect too. And like his entire life was changed by that 10 minutes of something that he never intended to see. Because, quick tangent, we live in a world now where we only ever have to experience exactly what we are interested in and what we care about. So there's something kind of interesting that happens when something totally unexpected comes your way, out of left field, something you'd never think to look into on your own. End of tangent. Okay, what did I think of the movie? I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I'd never seen the original Mad Max movies, anything like that before. And this was made with such care and love, and obviously the practical special effects were amazing, and the action all had a driving force to it that was really powerful, and the plotline was straightforward with some great characters, great acting, but there's still some real depth there. But this was, I forget how I described it on Facebook, but something like an adrenaline-fueled dystopian buddy comedy on PCP. This world and the presentation of it was just so different from anything I've seen before. I love that there was little to no exposition. We just jump right into the story, and it felt like a chapter. Like, in some ways, the Avengers 2 to me felt like another chapter in what the Avengers do, which is very different from when you have a sequence of movies that feel like an arc. Something like Star Wars has 3 movies that's clearly an arc for a character, versus something like Indiana Jones, which feels more like just a chapter out of that character's life. So anyway, Mad Max was great because it felt like this was just another chapter, and that was done really well. The end of the movie didn't have like a crazy cliffhanger or anything like, what's going to happen next? It totally resolved itself, but you still wanted to see more of this world and more of this character and more of whatever the heck George Miller is dreaming up now that he has the budget and the special effects and the quality of acting to really make this awesome. If I had to pick one favorite thing in the movie, I loved the music. I loved the guitar player. I loved the way this was incorporated in the story. This isn't a spoiler at all, so don't worry if you haven't seen the movie. But there is a guy that rides through this entire journey, like hooked up to the front of a vehicle, playing guitar, like for 3 days straight, just nonstop. And, you know, there's drummers back there. Drummers are more typical for like a war party kind of thing. But the guitar player with like a flamethrower just rocking out nonstop, and it's the music for the movie, but then it's like, you know, when the heroes are very far away from the bad guys who are coming toward them, like you still hear the guitar really faintly in the background, and I just love that. I thought it was such a nice touch, and man, it was such a refreshing movie to see. I really look forward to seeing the future ones. I think the movie's doing really well, so I think there's a really good chance of the sequel happening. I give it 5 stars with a confidence of 3 right now. So I caught the train, hooray! And then I came home and gushed to my wife about how much I enjoyed this movie. Pure entertainment, clean fun, and I told her that now I really wanted to see the original Mad Max movies, which, you know, the first one was 1979, so it's like 36 years ago, back when Mel Gibson was really young and not, you know, Mel Gibson as we know him today. And I wanted to see if that spirit kind of carried through. So we started watching the original Mad Max, not that night because I was home at like 1 a.m., but, you know, last night. And it was definitely in the same universe. Like, there was definitely a palpable sense. We watched about half the movie, and I enjoyed it, but, I mean, call it whatever you want, but after 45 minutes, we kind of felt like we'd gotten the gist of the movie. It wasn't really going anywhere in an interesting way. The nice thing about Fury Road is that there's such a clear goal of, like, this is what these characters want, and this is what that character's trying to do, and how they're doing it, and this is how these other characters are trying to stop them from doing it, and the clarity of that was really nice. And, I mean, yeah, the characters were interesting enough, and they felt as one with, you know, the world in Fury Road, or clearly before that, since there still seems to be some level of civilization. But yeah, I mean, maybe I'll watch the rest of it. It's a nice hour-and-a-half long movie, so I've only watched 45 minutes. If I watch the other 45 minutes, maybe I'll like it more. For now, I'm kind of like, meh. I'd give it, you know, 2 stars with a confidence of 2. I guess, but I'm probably going to watch the other ones too. I think one of them is like Welcome to the Thunderdome, which sounds like a wrestling movie, but whatever. I'll check those out soon. Mad Max. Go see Fury Road. Another movie that I barely watched anything of, we'll just give a quick opinion on, Hercules, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. My wife and I thought it would be a fun kind of popcorn dumb movie. Watched about 10 minutes. No interest whatsoever, 1 star, confidence of 2. Instead of watching Hercules, we ended up watching American Sniper, the Clint Eastwood directed, Bradley Cooper starring film, which, you know, based on, I hadn't seen anything about it until now, but based on what I'd heard, I thought I probably wouldn't enjoy it. It sounded to me like a pretty blatant endorsement of the Iraq War, which I myself was against from the start. But I actually thought it was very well done. Everything from the acting to the way the story was told, the choices of what to put in the story and what to kind of leave out and leave to the imagination, especially the way it ended, was very tastefully and artfully done. That being said, now that I've kind of gone back and compared what actually happened to the things the movie presented, there are some very weird choices. Like, it's very strange. Spoilers if you haven't seen the movie. If, you know, I'll just say, check it out if you haven't seen it. Now, spoilers. You know, they show Bradley Cooper's character, Chris Kyle, killing a kid pretty early on in the movie, so you'd think that that would be something that really happened. Nope. Chris Kyle never, as far as he says in his book or in person, ever killed a child, even in a war zone. You know, so that seemed like a strange thing to hoist onto the audience. Some changes I really didn't mind, like they made it seem like he had this arch nemesis Olympic Syrian sniper and like those two are facing off the whole time. In reality, Chris Kyle never met that sniper. Things like that I'm totally cool with because it ups the dramatic stakes and makes it feel like there's a real rivalry going on. You know, the 2100-yard shot, which is insane by the way. The furthest shot I've ever made in like Metal Gear Solid is 310 meters. So 2100 meters, he actually did make a shot like that. It wasn't to kill his arch nemesis sniper, but for the purposes of the movie, I thought that totally worked. My favorite thing about the movie actually is I really like the fact that, you know, so many soldiers come home from war, they have PTSD, they're dealing with so much from their experience, and I liked the emphasis on Chris Kyle working through that by helping out other veterans and helping out, you know, people who went through similar experiences to him. That to me is a real show of bravery and patriotism in a way that I feel kind of gets left out of a lot of movies. Like, you'll see a war movie and it'll focus a lot on all the heroic acts that happen at war, and then there's not a lot of focus on, you know, what happens later or after. And this was fascinating too because of the multiple tours. I think he had 4 tours in Iraq, and so to have the back and forth between, you know, what happened at home, what happened in Iraq, and again, from a storytelling perspective, like, you very easily could have just condensed all of that and said, okay, here's what happened at war, and then maybe talk a little bit about what happened back at home. But the back and forth of that was really fascinating and gave a really interesting tension release, you know, narrative and flow to the movie that I thought worked really well. So, you know, despite a little bit of, you know, conservative preachiness, it really didn't bother me that much. I thought it was a well-made movie. I think everyone should check it out and form their own opinion on it. I give it 4 stars with a confidence of 4.